obtain quotes, look at proposals from service providers, and eventually we got a wonderful solar system installed in July last year, and it was just before the wave of everyone wanting it. And we are so grateful that it was installed just before the sort of stage 6 onslaught happened, that enabled the school to continue functioning almost uninterrupted. And yeah, it's fitting. You see the lights are actually on that picture, and they've stayed on, thankfully. So we're grateful for how God spared us. And just as we faced a huge challenge then of not having electricity, we're now facing a different challenge of 2 key leaders moving on to different roles. So we've now got planning to what the next season holds. Sorry, I'm just trying to minimize this because it's getting very irritating. Just hold a second. Sorry, I live on Microsoft Teams, not on Zoom, so excuse me. Anyway, okay. We will persevere. So we have the senior leadership of the school, so the board, principal, as well as a few key staff members, participated in thinking and planning and praying that happened last year. We had set aside some time, we met together, we shared meals together, we spoke and discussed about the heart of the school and what we earnestly desired the school to be and become in the future, facing some real challenges that we had. And we then had a follow-up session earlier this year, which was facilitated by Gareth Stead, who is part of Expand Southern Africa, as well as Lee Berg, who is part of the Three Peaks School as a founder there, and then is also part of Ambleside School Southern Africa. And she is participating with the board, and together they facilitated an excellent day workshop session. And we looked at this, of going through this journey of where do we come from, where are we now, where do we want to be in 3 to 5 years, and what must you do in the next 1 to 12 months to start to realize this vision. And yeah, it is part of designing strategically, designing to last, trying to look at what we're good at, what we're not so good at, where we need to work. And out of that came a series of priorities, which, yeah, we then had surveys that we needed to complete and real deep thinking that we needed to consider as well. And through that process, we then said, okay, we need to begin this professional recruitment process for the business manager and principal. That is the most crucial things that we face right now. That is mission critical. We want to improve our staff satisfaction and retention, because they are our key assets, that if we have a happy staff, that we're going to have a much happier organization, and we better fulfill our mission. And we want to grow and diversify income streams, that it's not enough just to rely on fees. We want to be able to look at other options, donors, sponsors, fundraising, etc. We want to connect with church leaders, promote Christian education. We know that churches are our key stakeholder that we really need to build a relationship with. We can't just rely on Facebook marketing and conventional means. We actually need to build relationships with churches and find opportunities to build that. We want to move to be a single stream school, which has been a departure from what we're trying to be building in the past, and that is a more focused school where we had challenges that we were facing with too much noise, too many children on the campus, etc. And there's a real strength that we believe coming from having a single stream school, and with that adding a middle school to the campus. We want to delegate responsibilities and develop leadership amongst staff members. So staff members have been getting a better idea of what the Ambleside method is about. They've been growing in their abilities, and we want to see greater delegation of responsibilities amongst staff. And on our premises, we want to proceed with the development plans and spruce up some areas that maybe got a bit shabby over the time. And our sport, we want to showcase what we already offer, which is a really solid program, which is based by solid research, and we want to introduce competitive sport. And we'll talk a bit about that soon. And we want to listen closely to parents where there are valid concerns, where things coming up, and we want to engage and discuss and try and better understand where the areas of unhappiness and to improve. And then we also want to recruit new board members and who appreciate and understand the Ambleside philosophy. So these are the things that we really want to focus on. In terms of the next decade, the growth and transformation for our children and for our school is paramount. And we want to see that renewal in education through our life transforming approach. We want to see a single stream Vine School developing, and we want to add the grades RRR, 8 and 9 to have 12 classes in total on our campus. And we want to see our facility enhancing the existing property and hopefully add a preschool on an adjacent property. So that's part of the expansion which we see in the next few years. So the senior leadership changes, we've carefully considered these, and you would have seen in the communication we sent out 2 weeks ago to parents and guardians that Susan Keegan is going to be moving on, but she will be remaining as a staff member, but not as full-time. She'll be a part-time member and have a mentoring role until early next year to ensure that there's a smooth handover of business manager. And she's carried this with such passion and incredible ability, and we want to see that continue in the way that the Vine School is managed, and that she'll continue serving as director so that she can also fulfill her responsibilities in Ambleside, Southern Africa. So that business manager recruitment process has started. The advertisement has been placed 29th of May, and that closes the 30th of June. So please, if there are any suitable people you know, please refer them on. It has been put on various platforms, and that we hope to offer that position by the end of July this year. And we're trusting to fulfill that role in September, October this year. So yeah, we have assistance with that recruitment process. We've got a professional approach. We've got good support. These are all things that have been added and lessons learned from previous processes. And then our beloved Ian Smith is moving on to hand over the role as principal, and we're trusting at the start of 2024. And he wants to return to that first line of teaching and being in the classroom. So Ian has served dedication for about 15 years, is it? 14 years, sorry. And he wants to have a season of renewal and refreshment. And I think all of you appreciate the challenges of education and leading a school over through quite a challenging time. So we are trusting in 2024 he'll be able to have a teaching role to provide continuity and support to a new principal, that can remain. So as of the business manager was advertised in May, also closed 30th of June, and we trust him also to offer that position in September to give sufficient notice period to fill that role, by God's grace, by the 1st of January 2024. And then the middle school, and I'll hand over to Ian to do that.
So yeah, like Gavin said, I am looking forward to, if it's the Lord's will, to get back to my first love, and that's teaching. Yeah, as mentioned in a letter that our board chairman sent out to parents last week, the starting a high school has always been on the school's radar, and we are confident that our students, they leave primary school with a pretty strong foundation, and we're grateful for that. At a recent meeting which we had with grade 7 parents, Susan Keegan, our executive director, she explained that we were not until recently ready for this big step, middle school. And in April and in May this year, like Gavin shared, the board held 2 meetings with senior staff to seek the Lord's direction for the second decade of the school's life. And like Gavin said, the outcome was a very clear conviction, single stream, triple R up to grade 9. And then last year, the board surveyed the school just to measure, to see how much interest there would be in extending to grade 9. And the response was very positive, actually, very encouraging. We also contacted 20 high schools about gaining access in grade 10. And all but one of those schools said that they actually accept students in grade 10. And many actually confirm that it's easier to get into grade 10 than it is to get into grade 8. 200 places in grade 8, 2,000 applications. Very, very far fewer applications for grade 10 at high schools. And that's obviously depending on subject choice. And then preference is also given to students who are academically strong, especially in maths. Schools look for math students. Well, that's what they call them, math students. We believe any student, any child can do maths, but they look for math students. And this gave us the assurance that the students who leave the school at the end of grade 9 would not struggle to get into good schools for the final phase of the education. And our finance department also worked out budgets just to see that it would be viable, and indeed it is. So this plan for high school, Uyana. Yeah, let's do it like that. Maybe not get ahead here. This plan for for the high school, it was put on hold when I shared with the board that I would be resigning as principal. The board felt that it wouldn't be fair to expect a new principal coming in to suddenly now pioneer middle school as well, especially in their first year. But this changed in May when I shared with the board that I would be interested in and available to teach grade 8. And this was quite interesting because a week before I shared this with the board, at a board meeting that I didn't attend, discussion was had around what if Ian actually stayed on as a teacher. A week later, at another board meeting, I shared that my wife and I have been discussing, praying, thinking, and actually, I don't see myself at a school other than an Ambleside school, knowing what I know. I just cannot see myself getting into another kind of school. This is what I shared with the board. And there were a few shocked expressions because that's what they were discussing the week before. But they did see it as the ideal opportunity. Couldn't ignore this, and then immediately started exploring this option. The Western Cape Education's departments, their response was quite interesting, very, very, very positive. And the speed with which they processed our application was unbelievable. I contacted the principal in the Western Cape who had done exactly the same thing, applied to the Western Cape Education Department to go up to grade 9. He said to me that it'll take about 30 days, about a month before you get an answer. Mrs. Keegan submitted an application on Monday, the 22nd of May. On the Friday of that same week, we received an unannounced visit from the circuit manager who oversees independent schools in our circuit, or in our district rather. After completing the forms with Mrs. Keegan and myself, she assured us that our application would be successful. She said, tell your grade 7 parents, this is going to happen. On Wednesday, the 7th of June, not even 2 weeks later, we received notification from the Western Cape Education Department that our application was successful. And in the email, we actually received a copy of the registration certificate, which says we are a combined school now, and we offer up to grade 9. That's what the certificate said. Not even 2 weeks. it was just unbelievable. And we thought, is this God? That's a certificate. 8 days. 8 days it took. So what are we looking for? What are we looking for in middle school? Well, this is what I'm thinking of. Clear high school identity for students. I spoke to a few principals about this, and one of them said, it's always good to have a combined school where you have senior students sort of looking after the younger students. But you also need to ensure that they feel that they're actually at high school. And so one of the ways we are going to do that is by having a different uniform for them. I actually spoke to them and asked them for ideas. And they said to me, and this is interesting again, because we had spoken about this, Susan and I, but I hadn't spoken to the grade 7s. One of them said, what about the blazer? I think a blazer will look smart. And that's what Susan and I were discussing. A blazer, a tie, slacks perhaps. We want them to be part of the community, but also they must know and feel that they are in high school. We're looking at separate assemblies. There will be content that wouldn't be appropriate to share with younger kids. So we will look at assemblies that are going to be separate from the rest of the school. Not all the time, but we will need to have separate assemblies for them for that reason, and also to make them feel that they're at high school. More responsibilities. They actually, our grade 7s do quite a bit here at the school. They do bathroom duty to help teachers now to set the eyes in the bathrooms. They do gate duty, monitor timekeeping, late coming among our pupils. They do outreach here, even at school, by looking after our little ones, reading to our little ones. They man the projector, they train how to set up and work the projector in them. There are quite a few responsibilities there at the school, but we want to give them more. Also, we want to give them a feel in grade 7, 8, and 9, it's called the General Education and Training Band. There's not too much specialization. And so it's a general education and training band. So those teachers are typically classroom teachers who teach multiple subjects. But we want to start specializing next year already with grade 8s. For example, having one maths teacher for grade 7, 8. And then the following year, when we go to grade 9, have that same maths teacher for 7, 8, and 9, so there's continuity. The same for the languages. Have one Afrikaans teacher for 7, 8, and 9. Have one English teacher for 7, 8, and 9. Those are things that we want to introduce starting next year already, so that they get a feel for what subject teaching looks like. The school day for grade 7 to 9, it will be extended to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's more work that needs to be covered and differently. So we will extend the day to 3 o'clock for grade 7, 8, and 9. Well, at grade 8 next year at least. The Ambleside curriculum, I was in touch with Gavin Smith. He's the principal at the Houtbay, the Ambleside School in Houtbay. The grade 7, 8, and 9 curriculum has already been aligned with the CAPS curriculum. There's ongoing development of the curriculum. That's what I would like to see. If we're going to go to grade 8 and 9, we need to partner with Ambleside high schools so we can share ideas, share the workload, and just for there to be more consistency among our high schools, Ambleside high schools, as we move in that direction. So we're looking at cluster meetings among the subject teachers so they can share knowledge and ideas and also not feel isolated or alone. We're looking at technology, computer literacy to be added as subject. We're going to start that as early as next term, where our current grade 7 teacher, Ms. Land, she's going to introduce the Google Suite to our grade 7 students. They know what Google Classroom is, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google, what's the other one? This one? Slides. And then depending on whether or not there will be time in the semester next year, we will probably also try to cover the Microsoft suite, because what we have heard is that what's done at most high schools is Google. They use the Google suite, but they may go to high schools where they use Microsoft Office. So we want to see how we can prepare them there. I also, I taught technology when we had a high school. I taught technology grade 7. I taught Afrikaans grade 7 and 8. I taught life orientation grade 10, 11, and 12. Mrs. Lysegang, she's taught high school English for many years and history as well. Ms. Land, maths and technology as well. So we're quite confident that we'll be able to offer a really solid foundation, even in 7, 8, 8 and 9 as we move forward. I'd like to also focus on the Arduino programming program in technology. During COVID, we started it. Then during COVID, it didn't work out. And now we want to visit that again, where depending on what happens next year, I like to use part of this year just to study this Arduino program ourselves, robotics and coding. And we want to introduce that next year as well. That's going to become sort of my personal baby, put it that way. Then life orientation. When we had a high school, when the principal asked me to teach life orientation, I said, please, not life orientation, anything but not life orientation. Yeah, and I need someone, especially in grade 12. Please, and eventually I gave in, but yeah, it is not a good subject to be teaching. Lots of people attach a lot of importance to it. Believe me, what's covered in grade 10, 11, and 12 in life orientation is pretty much the same thing. I know, because I taught all 3 grades. So what we want to do is make it far more meaningful for our children. And so we'll look at study skills, because if they go to grade 10, they'll need to know how to study according to the CAPS curriculum, depending on the school they go to. We want to see how we can prepare them for that. So we will actually touch on study skills. Digital safety, we want to go there as well. That is such a need for children to know how to safely navigate the internet or use technology. That's going to be included in life orientation. At the moment in grade 7, the latter half of grade 7, we cover a booklet, How Far Can You Go, on sexual purity, written by a youth pastor from a very solid biblical perspective. And we want this to continue, looking at what's happening, particularly this month, and what children are exposed to at high schools. We want to see how we can extend that sexual purity book by covering issues like that in a biblical way, in a non-judgmental, in a non-threatening way. We want to see how we can best help our children from a biblical point of view. So that's the curriculum. And then, yeah, the school intends to introduce opportunities for competitive sport through matches with other Christian schools and small schools. And this would include cross-country, soccer, netball, chess, and athletics. And Mr. George and his team, Ms. Greep and Mr. Johnson, they've already sorted all of this out to start next term already with our current students, grade 4 to 7. And I'm not going to share about the sport. That's Mr. George's area of expertise and knowledge. So I'm going to hand over to Alan George, our sports coach.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, thank you. I didn't know I was supposed to press the button. But good evening. Laughter is good. It's good medicine. Yeah, it's just a joy to be able to share with you what we're doing at our school in terms of sports, and it's been a great concern for some parents. They want to know, actually, can my child kick a ball? Is my child able to run? Can he hold a bat in his hand, etc., etc. So I'm just going to briefly share with you what our sports program looks like, and and where we're heading in the near future, and the things that we are planning to do, and we are so excited. I must tell the parents tonight that it's such a joy to work with your children. Basically, as I look across the wall, I have a story to share about each and every child here. A positive story, a good story. Because each and every child, we need to understand, when it comes to physical education, we grow up in a society that's driven by what they see on TV. So there's an expectation. Some parents have an expectation. But when it comes to physical education, each and every child is unique in their own way. And they've got unique abilities that suit their strength. And that has always been my aim and my focus, to look at the overall development of a child. Holistic development. Not just the gross motor skills, the fine motor skills, that's important, but the emotional side of things. The emotional well-being of a child, and how that child grows and develops. Bearing in mind that as a school, we're partnering with your child in this journey of their physical development. The basic values or beliefs, objectives, those would be your results you wish to accomplish. And the generally accepted objectives of youth sports are the development of sports skills, life skills, and physical health. Principles, predetermined guidelines about how we will achieve these things. Our practices, what you do and how you do it. I've looked at what Solid Mason had to say about sports. And in their time, the subject of the natural training of eye and muscles was taken up pretty fully in treating of outdoor life, outdoor activity. Our kids don't play anymore. There's no time to play. Where can they play? If you live in a flat, if you live in an enclosed environment. And then there's this other factor, the danger that's out there. I come from a time where you could play outside until late at night, and you still got a hiding because it's past time. You know, but today children can't do that because of what's happening in society, and it contributes to their physical development. So Solid Mason, she looked at this, and what they implemented in the 1900s is called something Swedish drill. Swedish drill was the aerobics of the early 1900s and the foundation for modern gymnastics. Our event was inspired by archive photographs of Swedish drills classes taken in Salford Lads Club in 1909. So just to give you a little bit in terms of the outcome of positive physical education. Academic achievement, how it helps with the development in the brain, cognitive functioning, and we pride ourselves, by the way, in what we do in terms of our physical education compared to any other Ambleside school in the world. We pride ourselves as Vine School that we have the best program in place. It's no, seriously. So you can give me a hand clap or something like that. it's always challenging because you're on the outside, looking in, not knowing exactly what's happening. Most schools in general only have one physical education lesson or PT lesson per week. Even Ambleside, some Ambleside schools only have one lesson per week, whereas we have two lessons that I have to spend with your child. And we have an after-school program. And during this time, we teach them about conflict resolution, how to resolve things when things don't go your way, or you're not too happy about how he or she handled the game. Decision making. And that's something that I've noticed last year and this year, really spend more time on getting them to understand what decision making is, because there's certain things that a coach or physical educator can't teach any person, anybody who's played sports. You must learn to think for yourself and on your feet. Emotional regulation. Our kids are emotional. They get emotional. They get emotional. And the neighbors can testify to that because they hear the screaming and the shouting. Empathy. How to come alongside one another and say it's okay. And that's all the beautiful things that I see here on a daily basis. Interpersonal competence, leadership, taking the lead. We alternate in terms of who will lead things, who will do this. Leadership, life satisfaction, self-confidence. I have so many testimonies to share about children that came to the school that, you know, their confidence levels were down. And with time, they became self-confident. And you can see the joy on a child's face when they are confident in doing something, because we have the time and the patience to work with them. It's not all about who's the best and who runs the fastest and the strongest player, etc. So developing physical health to improve children's physical health through youth sports participation is an important objective due to the alarming rise of inactivity and obesity in our culture. Children are not active anymore. So, like you heard Mr. Smith say, the next phase for us is now competitive sports and what that will look like, or social sports, and how we're going to approach that and help our children grow in sports, not just within the boundaries of Vine School, but outside. And how to be able to handle defeat, because this generation in general, they struggle with handling defeat. I mean, we have an interesting game called, they call it handball, but the game is actually called Foursquare. You can Google it on YouTube. It's called Foursquare. It's played all over the world. But the amount of altercations, I'm telling you, you can put the rules up there, how quickly they change the rules, you know. But what a fun game, and what a nice game to develop hand and eye coordination, to develop movement, to develop decision making, to develop awareness. So the things that we put together deliberately to develop certain skills without the child knowing. A game like Rounders, which incorporates basically every part of your body, you know, coordination, running, decision making. Should I go? Must I stay? How do I kick the ball? Catching, throwing, working together as a team. All of those elements come into play when we play a game like Rounders. So our children are now more than ready. We have prepared them over the years. We have we will continue to grow these skills within them, to help them to be able to compete and play and do sports, but to develop the love for sports, that sports, they will continue with sports as they go older. Understand, they will know and understand what it means to live a healthy lifestyle. So we have fixtures already drawn up for these codes: cross-country, soccer, netball, chess, athletics. We've registered now with chess fraternal, cross-country as well. And you will be notified of the dates. We have a few friendly matches for soccer. Ambleside Houtbay, they're going to get a hiding, by the way. Claremont Primary, and that will be soccer and netball, home and away. Fixtures have been drawn, and we are excited about this venture. We are excited to grow sports in our school community. I want to encourage parents to, I know times are tough, you are tired, you work a lot. Children, they need to play. As a parent, let's go home, let's play. Let's get the running shoes out. Let's get them walking. Don't be too tired to walk with your child. Don't be too tired. Take them for a stroll or a run. Daddy, if you have two left, it's okay. Kick the ball. Get them to kick. Get them to catch. I mean, we have Maximus. So he starts the physical lesson with a song. But I see the leadership skills. I see the leadership potential because he leads them in singing. And then we start with our activities, how important jumping is, how important hopping and skipping is, without falling over, how important balancing is, your posture. Our kids walk like this. Why? Because they sit on a couch. A lot of screen time. You see them slouch. Now they struggle. You wonder why they struggle with their fine motor skills. They haven't been developed. They don't get time to play with things, sand, dough, etc. Now you spend money on taking them for therapy and all these things. And all they need to do is play and exercises. So yeah, I hope you're excited. I hope I've shared enough. So we are excited, and we are looking forward to growing the sports at our school. It will start in the new term. Thank you.
I neglected to actually just share a few thoughts. You may know that our approach to sport, physical education, is very similar to that of Professor Tim Noakes, where he believed, as we do, that at primary school level, the focus should always be on skills development, hand and eye coordination, accuracy in throwing, catching 9 times out of 10, balancing, all those things that Alan spoke about. That should be the focus at primary school level. And then once those skills are developed, then let them compete. And so last year, towards the end of last year, Alan and I had a discussion. I wouldn't say a chat, it was longer than a chat. It was actually a discussion where he shared with me, you know, Ian, it's been a while, it's been a few years of our pupils experiencing this approach to physical education. And Alan actually drew up a program, he calls it physical literacy. And the program is what he described it to be, where there's this focus on skills development. And he said to me, I think they're ready now. And I said, are you sure? He said, I think they are ready to measure themselves against other pupils or other children. And so I said to him, okay, that's good. I'm glad about that. Now, what's very important is having them measure themselves against appropriate competition. Because when I was a sports coordinator, when we were John Wycliffe Christian School and we had a high school, that was one of my roles. And what I noticed was children at our school, we played, for example, a cricket match against another school. And we'd have 11 boys in the team, perhaps 5 grade 7 boys, 3 grade 6 boys, 3 grade 5 boys. We had to do it that way because of our numbers. And we're playing against perhaps maybe their B team, but they have 200 grade 7 boys from whom to choose. And week after week, they get hammered. And then eventually, I'm not good at sport, I don't want to participate anymore. And so when I spoke to Alan about this, we both agreed that whoever our children play against, they need to be of similar strength so that they don't become discouraged and disheartened again. And that's why we started looking at smaller schools, Ambleside schools, there's Grace Primary, Claremont Primary, Alan mentioned them. And so those are smaller schools who are very similar to us in terms of number and also strength, I suppose, put it that way, between among the students rather. And so that is why we actually chose those particular schools to participate against. Cross country, you pretty much measure yourself against yourself, you try and better your time each week. Chess, very different. I spoke to Mr. Johnson about that. He said in terms of chess, you very rarely have age groups. It's all about ability. Apparently there's an 8-year-old girl who's competing against high schoolers in chess. And he said to me, there are some students at this school who will be able to hold their own against high schoolers. So just to give you some background as to how this whole decision came about, and the fact that we are very, very excited about the possibility. I just thought I needed to add that for some context as well. Janice.
About a year ago, I started speaking with Susan particularly about the Vine School logo and how I just was looking at Ambleside International, and we were looking at where we fit into the whole Ambleside International group. And just also speaking to people who were experts in how logos develop and how they evolve. And so we, over the course of the last year, have gone through backwards and forwards through different plans and different things, and really looking very carefully at how do we want our school to be seen, not only amongst ourselves, but also with people that are looking for a school. And so I'd like to just go through a little bit of the evolution of our logo and how we would like to see it going forward. I'd like to just start off first of all with just a few reasons. You know, over time, all logos need refreshing. And it's not to do with trying to be the latest or follow the trends or anything like that. It's not about that, but it is about just refreshing. I looked up some statistics and they said, and most of the statistics I saw had that most companies change or at least tweak their logo every 5 to 7 years. If you've looked at the evolution of the Coke logo or some of those big companies, you'll see that they've changed subtly over the years. And so they look at different fonts, different slight changes, even in color. And like I said, new is not always better, but we do want to make sure that we keep just looking at it. Our current logo is 11 years old, and so it's a good time to have a look. Also, we've been going for, so it's 10 years. It's nice to also have that something new for a next decade. And that's where I just looked in that next part. I also looked at what is the importance of us being more closely branded to the Ambleside International brand. And here's some of the positives. Being part of an international group of schools gives credibility to our school. We're not just one school who's developed this one curriculum. We're part of a group, and it is obviously developed. Obviously, it has a multiplier effect. So if one family knows of an Ambleside school, as soon as they see the Ambleside brand, they will know that they'll know what to expect. I mean, we're more easily found if somebody is looking at one Ambleside school. And in fact, that happened with us recently. A family found an Ambleside school and then saw our logo on it and was able to find us through that as well. Also, it's recognizable. It's quite good to be able, I mean, if you know the quality you're getting, if you know, an international brand, if you're looking at clothing or anything like that, you know what you're getting if you are looking at an international brand. It also means in this instance, particularly, that us aligning with the Ambleside brands means that we have access to a whole lot of materials. I have been liaising and speaking regularly with Cahoots, which is the Ambleside International marketing advertising team. And they have done a lot of, they've done a lot to do, you know, with Ambleside. And so now we have access to this, a whole lot of brand manuals, of resources. We don't have to now go and get our logo or anything put onto anything else because it's all been done for us. So I just want to walk through what we've done. So as we all know, the V with the vine leaves on the left there, and right, yes, left. And so we've just slightly adjusted the colors so that it is more in line with the brand of the Ambleside brand. We're then going to be moving to be more like the other schools. And in fact, I'm going to move fairly quickly to the next one, just so that you can see what we are looking at. Ambleside Schools, Rocky Mountain, Ambleside, Colorado, Ambleside, Belito, Ambleside, is it also Durban North? I mean, Durban. They all have this similar brand. And so Ambleside, the Vine School. And so together, it would still keep our unique icon of the vine and the leaf, the V and the leaf, but just moving to add in the Ambleside School side of things. When it comes to going on to clothing, we would keep the Ambleside, the Vine School, and that's something, the kind of thing that it would go on the different clothes. So on jerseys, we would use the white, and then on the sort of, what is that color called, Susan? Khaki. The khaki would go with the blue. We asked Cahoots how we use the V in how does that work? Where do we put it? How does that look? Because it's too big and clunky to put the two together all the time. And so where would we use it? This is we've just used one of the websites. This isn't what our website looks like at the moment. But this is the kind of thing that'd be on the website. If perhaps somebody is looking for a school and they happen to go to Ambleside International, they would see the schools down the one side, but then they would, see the illustrator, the icons, and that would give them an idea of just giving it a bit of a difference. We'd also be able to use that, the V with the leaves on other things, perhaps promotional items, perhaps stickers where perhaps your child would like a V to go on their water bottle or their lunchbox, those kind of things. Just use them in different areas like that. There was something else I wanted to say and I've forgotten. website. Yes, thank you, Susan. So although we are going to be moving forward in putting and in using these new logos, or the new logo, it's not going to happen immediately. Obviously, things like uniforms, we're not going to expect, you know, that to change immediately. All of this is going to take some time. Our website is going to look the same. It's going to just take time. All of this is going to take a while to actually move forward. So again, this isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow, but it is going to slowly start moving forward into that. Susan, have I forgotten anything? Okay. I don't know if anybody has any, I don't know, can they ask questions now, or do you want to keep it for later? Later, okay, if you have anything for them. I am going to move forward just a little bit onto here, just speak very quickly about fundraising. A number of years ago, just around about COVID, we did our website, and we started the 100-1000 Fund. Some of you have heard of it, some of you haven't, but we started a 100-1000 Fund. The idea was to get 1,000 people to donate 100 Rand a month, a small amount, a reasonable amount, but making a huge, huge difference. When I've done some fundraising, been to workshops and things like that, they have always said, yes, it's great to have the $1 million donation. That's wonderful. But what you need to have is you need to have lots of little amounts, because it's very difficult to replace the $1 million donor who now stops donating. But it's a lot easier to replace 10 100 Rands. And so we were looking at that. Now, I'm not going to speak a lot about it right now, but we are at a stage now where to kind of really have a springboard going forward into how we're going to promote specifically in this instance, the 100-1000 Fund. And I'm just going to show you, and I'm hoping I can get there very quickly without, I'm actually going to do a new share and hope that I've got it up here somewhere. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not. I'm just going to have to stop sharing very quickly. I'll move quickly in this. Okay. All right. So I do have to say right up front, this is not all myself. I definitely have to give a lot of credit to Nadine Arnser, who has been helping a lot, who's been volunteering a lot with her skills. And this is just, I'm not going to go through it. There's lots of beautiful things in it, but just to give you a bit of a look as to what will be available for you to help if you would like to promote this and ask family members, friends, and especially if you've got people overseas. If you know anybody overseas, 100 Rand is nothing. So I'm just going to go through it very quickly. Some of you have seen that picture, our grade 7s from last year, putting that together. Nope, I'm going to go there. Yeah, just a little bit of a play on nurturing and growing our students, as well as, you know, picking up the whole Vine side of things, looking at as a Vine wants to give all the nurturing that it needs to grow its Vine. So we want to give all of the nurturing parts to grow our children. And just giving a little bit here, there's a lovely little bit of a graphic here that talks about, you know, what we need and where we are. And what is really lovely, and we came up with this, just, you know, when you're donating to the school, you're not just donating to a child's academic learning, you're donating to a lot of different things. And if you look close up, it gives a lot more information there. I will put this link out at some stage. How do you get involved? It gives the person a step-by-step. How do you do it? Where do you go? How can you sign up? How can you actually start donating? And then I've got two lovely comments from people who have benefited at our school. from financial assistance. One thing that we wanted to make very clear is that every person in the school, every family in the school pays fees of some kind. Nobody comes to the school free. It's all done. And so we talk about it as everybody is making some kind of sacrifice to come to the school. And families see the benefit of an Ambleside education. And so they pay the most they can. And then we come alongside them and allow them to be part of the school. And then just ending up with people that have already sponsored us. We have Vumatel sponsored our fiber, and Cool Ideas sponsors our monthly internet. And so we have free for school Wi-Fi at the school because of wonderful sponsors. And then just a last little plug to, if you don't have your My School card, please, please, please make sure you do that. It costs you nothing, but we do end up getting some money. So thank you for that. I hope that you enjoy looking through that in detail later. I'm just going to stop sharing there and get back to the other screen. Okay, we're back to where we were. There you go.
Hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Kirsty Wane. I've got 3 daughters at school. Sadie's been here from grade R and now she's in grade 7. Can't believe time's gone so quickly. So I'm a parent at the school, but I'm also an architect. So I'm going to be speaking a bit about the school building development. You might have heard about some of these plans because some of them are coming along quite a few years. So we're hoping that with all the fundraising we're going to be coming in, we can implement some of these developments. So we want to create an optimal environment. And these are some of the outcomes that we want to implement, which is talking about the key areas that we want to focus on and upgrade. So definitely the first one is the pupils' bathrooms. If you've been in there recently, you'll know that it's in desperate need of an upgrade. So that will be one of the key focuses. And then we want to create new entrances, a drop-off and go area, off-street parking. I think coming out of our 2-week exam period where everyone is picking up at 1 o'clock, you'll know the nightmare that creates. So we want to look at that. So specifically, we're looking at demolishing part of the girls' bathrooms and storeroom. We want to build on and renovate and upgrade the boys' and girls' bathrooms, providing 3 toilets and wash basins for both. We also want to provide a unisex disabled bathroom with a separate entrance. And there's also a need for the school to have additional sports equipment storage, which is a big need we want to look at. And then we want to continue with our application with the council. It's been many years of negotiation with them. So we want to continue with that negotiation and developing the pickup and drop-off zones. We're halfway there. Then we want to create covered entrances and spaces for seating for parents when we're waiting for our children. We want to create a paved avenue and a new reception entrance. And we need to raise funds for all of these developments. Okay, so this is the landscape plan, which was developed in 2016 by Square One. They came up with some amazing ideas, and maybe if we get a couple of million rand donations, we can implement those. But I think what I'm going to talk specifically to is this, which is sort of our medium-term goal. It's coming into a short-term view, hopefully soon. So this plan has been approved at the council last year. And the main sort of conceptual idea behind it is that when you come to the school, you don't have a clear sense of where the entrance is, where can I go speak to the receptionist, you kind of the back door, you're coming in the back door. So what we want to create is an idea of clear access, clear entrance, and also alleviate some of the traffic congestion that happens over there. So we want to create 2 pedestrian entrances, one on Denver Road, which you'll know is that road where everyone currently drops off, but also an entrance on the Waltham Avenue side. So we could split the traffic flow. We could create a sort of informal one-way traffic movement. So we can alleviate the traffic congestion during peak times of drop-off. And then we would like to create a drop-off and go embayment parking. So that could be sort of easier in terms of all navigating the same street and irritating our neighbors, I'm sure. Also, what we would like to do is connect those 2 entrances with an avenue. So it would be a treed colonnaded avenue. It would have sort of a pergola and paving that connects those 2 entrances and creates an avenue. And at the kind of peak point is a celebration of the entrance, and that's linked to the admin block. So there is an existing historical entrance, which actually is quite a beautiful entrance that's just been blocked off. So it's got a semicircular fan light and the door's been blocked off. So we'd like to reinstate that as the front door of the school. And then in doing that, in creating that linked avenue, the bathrooms were in the way, but that was a good thing because it gave us the opportunity to demolish part of it and then upgrade it. So we're looking at demolishing part of the ablution block and then creating smaller but really nice ablutions for the children. So this is going to be developed in a little bit more detail. I'm just looking at additional storeroom needs. But what we really want to do in the school has indicated the desire to have high-end finishes, but robust finishes. And we want to create something that's fun and functional. So that's the idea with the bathrooms. And then looking at that connection, this is looking at the entrance or pedestrian entrance that will be near the admin block side. To create a space for parents to be able to sit under cover when it's raining or it's really hot. And also, I think, connect on a relational kind of level, because at the moment, a couple of years ago, everyone could come onto campus and we could sit in the sun, put our blankets out and sit and chat while we waited for our older kids. Because of security, we can't have people obviously walking all over the campus. So we are stopped at the gate. But what I would like to create is a kind of an in-between space where we're not on the campus necessarily, but we have a space where we can sit, we can be undercover, and we can chat, hopefully bring out some tea or biscuits and wait for our older kids. I think that's something that as parents we really miss. And it's kind of like we're all sitting there in the rain or the cold or waiting in our cars and not actually having those chats and getting to know each other. So yeah, that's the idea, that we can have both security and also create spaces where we can sit and have shelter. And yeah, be a welcoming space for the school. And then these are just some high-level 3Ds that indicate that idea of the linked avenue. So the 2 pedestrian entrances linked with an avenue where we create a kind of colonnaded treed walkway. Yeah, and hopefully it will be something that uplifts the face of the school. And that's the celebrated entrance where we're trying to reinstate the heritage entrance that has a very strong connection with the administration block. Thank you.
I just say Kirsty deserves much more than a big clap and round of applause. She and her dad have done design for the school for years. And I think at the moment, every time I phone her, I'm not quite sure why she even answers the phone, because it's Kirsty. I just realized that drawing you did, I didn't notice that we need to do something different again. I just want to go back actually to something on that plan, because just in the last short while, we've had to come up with a couple of changes. But as you can see on that that plan, do you see on the left-hand side, you've got 3 classrooms and then the cars. If we move to single stream, 1 class per grade, we won't need those classrooms. We won't have such a problem with parking. We'll actually be able to remove eventually the classroom that's over there at the moment, have the parking area open again. We won't have to encroach on the play space as this plan shows. And ultimately, if we get that other property to that one over there, the man doesn't know we want it. He knows we want it, but he's not quite ready to sell it yet, except double the market price that he's made us aware of. We would then be able to remove those other prefabs as well, and we'd have a lot more space and the sense of just, space on the premises. The other thing, of course, is finances. We were really hoping to go ahead with the ablution block in June. We have to do that first, even though the entrances are, they've got such a visual appeal for people to actually arrive at the front door and not go in the back door. But we can't do it until we've knocked the toilets that are in the way. They're going to come down. And one thing that when Janice was speaking to, we've actually appointed a fundraising consultant to assist with the whole fundraising process. She said, have you applied to the lotto? And there's reasons why we haven't, but she said, they actually fund capital projects. So we still have time to apply this year, and maybe instead of spending our money that we have in the building fund on the ablutions and then having to raise funds for the avenue and the parking, we might be able to get that funded. And then maybe they'll give us money for avenue and parking as well, but it's more likely that they're going to give us money to upgrade our toilets, because toilets is, one of those buzzwords in the education sector. So, and ours are pretty crummy. We can definitely motivate for better ones. So it's not going to happen immediately as we were hoping, but we do hope we'll be able to do that build in December. And let's pray for the fundraising from the lotto that we get that funding. Now, I haven't got much time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Financial report, it's very important. It's what allows everything to happen. So quick background, it remains an incredibly challenging economic climate that we are living in. Post-COVID, things have not fully recovered. A lot of our parents, fortunately, have recovered to some extent, but not everybody has. And the whole, we know, load shedding, jobs, etc., finances are tight. It's not only our school that is affected, independent schools everywhere are feeling the pinch, as apart from anything else, people leave and go overseas. And so there's a smaller and smaller pot of families who can afford independent schools. The difficulty in retaining students and staff is common. I received the ISASA, that's Independent Schools Association, their school sustainability report. So every year we have to send them all our stats. They then, if we are good enough to fill in their incredibly long, lengthy questionnaire, we get feedback to find out what's happening in the rest of the independent school sector. And more than half the schools out there, the independent schools out there, have a higher attrition rate than we do, which kind of makes us feel a little bit better when people leave, because we realize it's not just us, it's a common problem everywhere, and we're not on the worst side of that half. Last year, we had a 6.5% fee increase. There were many schools that had a much higher fee increase, but it was actually quite average. I'm not allowed to compare notes beforehand because that's anti-competitive. It's very, very frowned on to call another school and say, what are you putting your fees up? They say, no, each school must actually work out what is the appropriate fee for your situation. Our fees are still less than they should be. but we put them up by 6.5% out of consideration for our family, for our parents, and discovered afterwards, as I said, just in the last week, that it was an average. The other interesting thing, and this is just, it's quite incredible to see. Most ISASA schools have much higher fees. Sorry, I've made a mistake with this sentence, but very, very few. Less than 20% offer the level of financial support that we do. So I'm quite proud of that. That's not anything of our doing, that is the Lord's grace. Now, financial report 2022 balance sheet. We continue to grow. We now have more assets than we had last time. Large part of that is our mobile classrooms and equipment. And what we added to our equipment between 2021 and 2022 was we spent 100,000 Rand on air conditioners, plus the installation of them. That came out of the development fees. And we spent 435,000 Rand on putting up the solar installation. That was not all our own money. We took a loan, and that will be serviced over 5 years. But we did put a down payment of 80,000 Rand towards that, and that is part of the equipment that we own. We have our fee deposits. That doesn't belong to us. That is everybody's fee deposits that they pay to the school on joining. And that is invested in Alan Gray Fund. You can see it's over R1 million. The income from that investment goes towards the educational fund. In other things, we've got our uniform stock. This is, as things were on the 31st of December last year, a very large amount of fees and deposits owing. It looks a bit scary because that is our debtors book. But just to put it in perspective, nearly 150,000 Rand of that was the top-ups of your enrollment deposits, which had just been invoiced at the end of that year and hadn't yet been paid. 350,000 Rand is still old COVID debt. When people got into trouble, were not able to pay their fees, and are now slowly paying it off. It's not bad debt. Thanks to every family that is slowly paying off that debt. But we haven't written it off. It's still coming in, but it does make the debt look quite large. And then the other thing, we've got about 65,000 Rand that we've actually had to hand over for collection. Families have left the school and are not interested in paying off their arrears. So that leaves about 346,000 Rand, which was ordinary school fee debt that people hadn't paid by the end of the 31st of December and are still servicing those debts. Then, so that's our assets. Bank balance, we had 1.2 million Rand in our various bank accounts. Again, quite a large amount. We don't normally have that much in the bank, but it was the end of the year. Quite a few families have paid their fees upfront for 2023. Equity, I'm not going to explain reserves, retained income. You can see that after all the years that we've been running, we still have a small loss. We haven't yet finally broken even, but we slowly but surely wearing that down. There's the West Bank loan. We owe 340,000 Rand. That's less now because we're paying that off, as I say, over 5 years. We had provision for bad debt and repairs. In 2021, we had quite a windfall. We received this huge grant from the Presidential Employment Initiative to protect jobs. And we were able to then retain a number of staff that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to retain. And we also had money over. And so we put that aside to make provision for if we have to write off debt in the future, and for repairs and maintenance that we hadn't actually done during the COVID years. So that was 718,000 Rand that was set aside at the end of 2021. Quite a lot of it has been spent since then on, part of it was from the development fee that then went into the air conditioners, and the rest was, we'd actually spent quite a lot now on repairs and maintenance. As you know, before we could put the solar installation up, which we wanted to do in 2021, then we discovered that our roof may not last another 3 years. We put a solar installation on top, so we had to replace the roof. And that was about 230,000 Rand, and that came out of our provision for repairs and maintenance. And then we have actually written off some debts, or then consider them bad debts. There's no point chasing people for them. They're never going to be able to afford them. And that was nearly 60,000 rand that we wrote off from the provision that we'd made for bad debt. So when we look at what our expenses were last year, there's nothing there for bad debt because we actually used some of the funds we'd set aside in the past. Then what else? Fees paid in advance. That's kind of like a liability because we owe it for the rest of the year. It's all going to be drawn down as the year goes by. Education fund, PVA fund, suppliers. Those are things we owe. We owe education fund. How do we owe that? Okay, I was working from a financial report from a few years back. So I'm not sure that that's correct, that first statement. But I'll have to come back to you on that one. But PVA funds, they're not our funds. We regard them as funds that the PVA has raised. They are free to spend them on things at the school. And then suppliers that we still owed. Fee deposits, again, as I said, that's not our money, that's parents' money. So it counts on the one hand where it's listed under assets, because that's what the auditors have to do, include it as our assets, but they also have to include it under liabilities because we owe that money back to parents one day. So that's the balance sheet. Sometimes I look at the balance sheet and I get quite scared. And then you have somebody else come and look at it and say, actually, you guys are doing pretty well. For a small independent school, you're doing better than a lot of other schools are. So that is encouraging. We're not in major debt, and that is the main thing. Financial report, income. There's comparisons there. I'm just going to highlight a few things. There's lower activities fees because we actually have fewer students this year. Aftercare fees have gone up since 2021 to 2022, thank heavens. But if you realize that in 2019, our aftercare fees were over 400,000 rand. So many people are now at home and they're not making use of the aftercare, or they're not working. So that's one of the things that's been quite a tax on our aftercare. Application fees also down. We're not getting as many applications, but we only have a single grade R class this year. Development fee, fundraising, let's see. Income from the educational fund. Part of that was from unused funds that we didn't need in 2021. And then we raised about 82,000 rand from donations last year. There was 70,000 rand from foreign donations and 64,000 rand that came in from the investment of the parents' enrollment fees or fee deposits. Small profit from uniform sales. As you can see, we don't try and fleece our parents. The provisions, that was the money that came in from the provisions to service those other things that we needed them for. School fees, 8.8 million rand. In fact, our fees, if there was no financial assistance or discounted fees for staff, our school fees would be just over 1 million rand more. So to fund the support that is given, we would need to actually raise 1 million rand a year. And apparently that is not an impossible task. Our fundraising consultant has said, but it's going to take time. It could take a couple of years to get to that point. But it's if we do that, we're then in a much better position in terms of our school fee income. Subsidy from the WCED, you can see in 2021, there was a very large amount. More realistic amount in 2022, 440,000 rand. Unfortunately, next year we're going to lose our WCED subsidy. They have reworked it's not the local provincial government that has done this, it's nationally. They've reworked all the subsidy things, but they've now decided that our fees are too high to qualify for a subsidy. We won't lose the whole subsidy because part of that is for preschool and that is not going to be removed. Other income, a little bit recovered from bad debts, debts that we had written off, but still a little bit was paid back, and interest from our investments. Then there's expenses. And then there were finance costs. The finance costs were for the West Bank loan for the solar installation. Obviously, that was only 3 months last year. It's going to be a lot more this year. But if you look at the bottom line, we had a profit of 6,000 Rand 404, which is better than a loss, but it's very precarious. Operating expenses, not much to look at there, except thank heavens, praise the Lord, we don't pay for all the COVID protocols anymore. So there's a bit of a saving on our cleaning bill. Depreciation of assets. Now we have more assets, they depreciate faster. That was mainly the solar installation and the air conditioners that, you know, we wrote quite a lot of the value last year. Employee costs, just a normal increase. Lease rentals went up quite a lot because of our lease increases are tied to the inflation rate, which is a bit worrying, but there it is. We've reduced our office equipment rentals because we finally paid off our PABX. And other than that, repairs and maintenance, major part of that was replacing the roof. So that is our financial report. We're going to make this available. I mean, you can't remember anything just looking at these slides, but this will be circulated later. Then our operating costs, so these are quite important little details. Our teaching staff salaries take up roundabout, as you can see, between 62 and 65% of our income. Our admin and maintenance staff take up another 17, 18, 19% of our income, which leaves our operating costs. That's everything else. The rent, the electricity, the bank charges, the insurance, the printing, the telephone, all of that stuff. The depreciation is under 20% of our income. Another important detail, and that is salaries as a percentage of fee income. This is something that we've, again, comparing with other schools, a lot of your independent schools, the salaries as a percentage of fee income is much lower. They just got way more overheads and they've got way higher fees. But the typical point of small Christian independent schools is your salary should be about 85% fee income. So this is an area that we need to look at. We either need to increase our fees, or we need to increase our fees, well, a lot, or we have to increase our fees a little and work on that 1,000 fund. So financial challenges to address, fundraising to support the financial assistance program. It's not going to help to say, well, we don't offer financial assistance anymore, because then we'll just have empty spaces. So it is totally worth it on every level to continue supporting families who are not paying the full fees. As I said, the Department of Education revised 3 fee thresholds and we will lose part of our subsidy. We want to stay affordable while meeting higher expectations and adding even more value to the school's offering. So we need to grow. We need to share the news of this great school with friends and family and encourage people to sign up and enroll at the school and to continue at the school. And then financing development projects. To date, none of these developments, not the solar power, not the buildings, not the prefabs, none of that has come out of school fees. They've all come from donations. And as I said, we'd like to approach the lotto for funding for the toilet block, but other things we'd love to do once the sports program gets going. Parents will have to share lifts, because if we have 3 teachers taking 3 kids in their car, that's only 9 kids. So we're going to need parents, but it would be great eventually to also raise funds to buy a small school bus. Quantum, some of it takes about 20 kids. So that's all from me. Finances always remain something to be prayed for, and especially to give thanks for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. We have had a few questions already submitted by parents beforehand. I'll quickly go through those and then I'll turn to those that are present in the audience. So from questions that were previously submitted, it was asked who will be part of choosing Ian and Susan's replacements. So we have a recruitment panel, which the board has approved. So for the business manager, it would be Susan Keegan, Ian Smith, Gareth Stead, and Maggie Bate. And then the recruitment panel for the principal will be Ian Smith, Gavin Graham, Susan Keegan, and Gareth Stead. So we will be going through a formal process, formalizing questions, going through the requisite testing and exercise which candidates will be doing. So we hope to be starting interviews late in June and hopefully early July. Second question was on the building plans. Hopefully that's answered by Kirsty. Please feel free if there's follow-up questions, maybe put in the chat if Janice, you could just watch that. Thirdly, the long-term plans up to grade 12. We have had discussions on that, but it's currently not on our radar. There's other challenges on trying to adapt to the CAPS curriculum for the exit exams in matric, which just really challenged the Ambleside curriculum. We can probably talk more to that. I don't know if Susan or Ian want to speak more to that. But hopefully the transition to the grade 10 to other schools, Ian did speak to that in his section. A lot of schools have said there's more likely openings. There's less, you don't have 100,000 people competing for limited spaces. So there is great opportunity. So we don't believe it's an impossible task. And with good grounding that they would be well positioned to transition to other schools. The space to accommodate new learners, we, as Susan mentioned, following Kirsty's talk, we believe there is space for the 12 classes on this campus, but we do look to grow the preschool off campus in due course. And measures to put in place to avoid bullying from older learners to younger learners, of having older learners on campus. What a lot of the comments that have been received from teachers is that having older children or students on campus actually calms the mood a lot, and then it's not a heightening of activity and things like that, but it actually can enhance the environment and make it quieter, more conducive. Also with greater responsibility, we're trusting that there will be improvement in behavior. I think it was mentioned some of the responsibilities that have been given to help learners grow and leadership, etc. And anything else you want to mention on bullying? I don't know.
No, I think one of the things we want to do is one of the things we do want to include in the life orientation program would be healthy conflict resolution and enabling our older students to themselves deal with that. We see it already, by the way. Older kids, grade 7s, even grade 6s, diffusing situations on the playground without being asked. But we like to build something like a component of conflict resolution in the grade 8 and even in the grade 7 curriculum. And then, like Gavin said, giving them, the older kids, responsibility over the younger kids very carefully, because we want them to learn to take responsibility for their own actions, but they do need help and support on the playground. And so that's how we see ourselves addressing the unlikely but still possible scenario of bullying, older kids bullying younger kids. We've seen it as unkindness. Bullying, we need to be careful about what we call bullying. Bullying is intentional, it's over a long period of time, and it's targeted at certain individuals, certain individuals. Not to say that that doesn't happen, but we're just very careful about what we call it and how we address it. How we address it will be informed by what we actually discover is the problem. But we are aware that with older kids and younger kids, we need to be aware that does exist, the possibility does exist. But we don't foresee any issues. In fact, at the Hout-based school, we see the older kids being older brothers and sisters to the young kids. That's how they are not taught, yeah, I suppose that's how whatever is shared with them, how they are raised at school. We want to help them see the opportunities that exist to support and help young kids as opposed to bullying them.
Excellent.
Okay.
And then another part, this is a long question, by the way. How would the change in management affect current processes and quality? And we trust it won't, that we'll be able to, with the good structures and people that are put in place, that we'll be able to continue the good quality and process that we've had and improve upon it as we grow and learn. And then fourth question was about competitive sport being introduced. I think Alan spoke very well to that. Hopefully that's answered the questions. Maybe Janice, you can just chat and check if there are any other things there. Plans for middle school have been outlined in quite a lot of detail, so hopefully that's addressed that one. Then the venue for the high school will be on this campus. We will be rearranging. I'm not sure the exact classroom. I don't know if that's been identified yet, but then the seventh question was what curriculum is being used for grade 8 and 9. That's already been said. So it's Ambleside curriculum, and that will be based on what they're using at Ambleside Hart Bay, but hopefully will be developed and improved for next year. And then, yeah, a similar question around the how will they be introduced into the community of the junior school grades 8 and 9, assemblies, events, etc. And as Ian said, there may be separate assemblies, etc. for grade 8 and 9. Thank you. Okay, so questions, Hannah.
Yeah. Just to clarify, single stream means one class for every grade from wherever we start until wherever we end.
Ultimately.
Okay. The first thing related to that, what would the timeline be on that? That's really more general, but the reason, actually, what is the, so Susan mentioned part of the financial picture is that we need growth. Now you are reducing the number of classes, so that's probably going to have an implication on class sizes. That's fair to say.
Yeah. So that's,
I don't know if our question is
yeah.
clear, but
Look,
like all of these things.
this is the conundrum as a board we face. So it is a very delicate balance, and Susan can show you a number of spreadsheets we've gone through over the years with this over 2-stream school, 1-stream school. All the numbers work, and it's obviously the size of the campus, so the number of teachers, and that little relationship is quite a delicate balance. So for the first time, I think Susan announced that at a board meeting recently, the numbers actually start working for this when we move to single stream school. So we obviously having full classes in that single stream is really crucial. So we've got a policy around class size. We try to keep it at 16 as far as possible. There are a few asterisks around what that can do. It puts a lot of strain on our teachers when we push that higher. There are certain instances where it's necessary. We're looking to try and do that as gradually and as without as minimal disruption as possible. So there's natural attrition to bring. We don't want to have huge classes by combining 2 classes if we can avoid it. So we'll keep the classes that we have as long as we possibly can, as long as it's viable. So I don't know, Susan, if there's anything else you want to add.
We've had a couple of classes at the moment that are pretty small. In grade 6s, I think there are 20 kids. So yeah, we could have said, right, we're going to have 20 children in one class, but we haven't. It's not the right thing to do for that class. Not right, it's the right thing to do for the teachers. And so there could be a situation where you've got 18 children in a class is running well, but we've managed fine. That's different. But you know, we're not going to just do it for the money to save the costs. The other thing is there's this really strong desire to have 18 kids in grade 1. You see, so that now there's slowly attrition, so there might be 15 in grade 7, but that's the wrong way around to do it. Every time we raise this, all the powers that be in Ambleside say no, you have to have the smaller class size in grade 1 and grade 2 and grade R. And if you add kids, rather add them later stage, when foundations are laid and habits are taught and behavior is easier and a little bit more mature, you can actually have 18 children in an older class, but not so much in the younger classes. But yeah, we're looking at just natural attrition. So the idea is we probably, our current grade ones is 2 grade 1 classes. By the time they get to about 2029, there might be a single class, but if they're not, then they're double class.
Okay. Just a question from the.
Yeah, the question here is the deposit fee, and Susan, maybe you need to answer this. The deposit fee was increased significantly this year. The notice we received simply stated it was being increased, but not why. Can you explain the rationale behind the increase?
The deposit fee is to have 2 months fees in hand if somebody leaves without paying their fees. And also, but the other thing was when parents join the school, they're asked to pay 3 months fees. And then it winds up as being to cover the 1.5 months fees, which is what it was in the past. You then sat with another 1.5. So it was 1.5 months for the fee deposit, 1 month for their first month's fees, and half a month, which then went towards the activities fee. And it was always just a clumsy thing. We felt that it would be better to move it to having, when you pay your fee deposit, it's 2 months fees, and the last month is your first month's fees. So that's what the deposit you pay when you accepted at the school. So we shifted that, I think, in 2021 for new parents. But then there was a sense that it's actually not fair that they're the only ones who have to pay 2 months fees. And so we then moved everybody onto 2 months fees, realizing at the same time that we hadn't given enough notice of it. And so we did send out a notice at the beginning of, when was it? Was it last year, beginning of this year? Yeah, to say that given the fact that you weren't given a lot of notice, you've got 2 years to pay it off to catch up. And so that, I mean, that still stands. You have until the end of 2024 to make that, to catch up with that extra half a month's fees.
How do you see the Bela bill impacting the Vine?
Doesn't impact the Vine at all. It only affects state schools and homeschools.
Chris.
I just want to say thank you very much to everyone for all your hard work and lots of exciting things coming up, so that's great. So 2 questions for Susan as well, just on the finances. I noticed that there was a large legal fee for 2022. Talk to that jump from like 10,000 to 100,000. Yeah, I'm not sure what legal fees.
It was a horrific legal fee, absolutely terrible. It was involved in ending a contract from somebody who did not want to leave, that had to leave.
I mean, I think, can you just jump, I think it was to the income statement, there was a back there. For the income from the educational fund. What is that? The 408,000.
Okay, the educational fund is like the 100,000 fund. So we get a couple of large donations to that. Well, not a couple, we get 1 large donation every year. There's a church in the States that gives us a donation of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year, depending on the exchange rate. That can be quite generous. And that we always put straight to the educational fund. And then that educational fund is used to fund the financial assistance program. And then there are still quite a few people, it's often past parents, some of our staff who donate on a monthly basis to that fund. And then it's quite a large amount because in 2021, we didn't need to use it. We had that donation from, or donation, that grant from the PEIP. So we set it aside and we used it in 2022 instead. Anything else? Okay.
Alan.
So just to say thank you for you say who they went to?
All Saints Church are the owners of this property. They're the church just down the road. We have a 25-year lease, which I think we've got 20 years still to run. And no, 19.
Yeah.
And the first 5 years, it was a 5% increment. And after 5 years, it moved to CPI, Consumer Price Index. What's it? Yeah, like inflation. And yeah, last year, I think that was 7%. So,
Yeah.
and the year before it was close to 6%. So it's gone up quite a lot, but it's fair to them.
Yeah.
You know, they can't stay on a rent that ultimately becomes too small. And then on top of that, the whole thing can be reviewed after 10 years.
But maybe just to add that, so it's the Anglican Church that owns this with the whole group of properties. So there was an extensive negotiation around a lease, and we had a lot of challenges with the repairs being done on the building because we were competing with the entire property portfolio of the Anglican Church, which is vast. So after much negotiation and headaches, we thankfully were able to negotiate a favourable lease where it was actually a nominal rent, and we took on the responsibility for maintenance. So we believe that was worth taking on because we then could prioritise it and do what we needed to do in exchange for having a lower rent. Did you have a follow-up question? Okay.
That was actually one of the
Yeah.
benefits of the roof blowing off.
Yeah.
When they realized that they were responsible for
Everything. Yeah.
repairing all of that, and we had this lease where we said we will pay for the repairs and maintenance. They were quite happy to backdate it to that January. And we finally got the lease.
Yeah.
But we pay an incredibly nominal
Yeah.
rental. I mean, it's nominal.
Chris, yes.
We're excited. They've signed up for quite a few activities and things that need to happen. You see it, please let us know.
Very, very soon. Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk to
I
this.
think we
Our
got so
exuberance.
excited about it ourselves, and so we kind of, I think we got so excited about it ourselves, and so we kind of let the cat out of the bag when we shouldn't have. And so we are going to meet this week, and we will meet next week as well, because we want this thing to work well. We don't want it to start off well and then fizzle out. We want this thing to work well. And so the fixtures for next term are all sorted already. Mr. Johnson's got a chess day planned. One Saturday, parents are going to have to come and play themselves. And then there are fixtures for the chess league as well. The cross country, we have the dates. The football, we have all the dates, but we want to ensure that the transport, all of the nuts and the bolts and the finest thing, as far as possible, we want those things to be finalized before we communicate anything to parents. So we have to do this before the end of the term, let our parents know what next term looks like in terms of the sport.
Another question. So in school, is it mixed use?
As in?
Soccer, sports, and
No, no. What we could do is this. I could speak to Mr. George and we could see how possible it would be for the opposing team to feel. You see, like I said earlier, we want to measure, our kids must measure their ability against the right competition. And so whatever teams we field, they'll need to field as far as close, to those teams as possible. But we haven't actually gotten to that point where we're actually going to have mixed teams. My understanding is no.
Yeah, there was one school that requested to ask for mixed team because there was so much choice and they don't have enough. And it was a small school, so we will look into that.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I've got a girl that wants to play soccer. So the question I have is are limited to just 2 or 3 sports that she has to do, because she wants to do it. So,
Sometimes children need to be given the difficult thing of making a choice. I'm serious. They can't do everything because then they're going to be busy every day of the week, and we want to be careful about overexposure to certain things. Again, we'll communicate that before the end of the term.
I'm assuming that, and this is maybe something to bear in mind, generally athletics is a summer sport, soccer, netball, cross country or winter sports. So there is a divide there already that they can't do everything.
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
Which also narrows that scope.
Yeah, good point. Absolutely right.
just another question, are these things all happening after school?
Yes.
The
Yes.
activities?
Any other questions? Are there any other online? No. Okay, everyone's ready to head. I think we will close it. I think obviously we are available for further questions or queries, comments, etc. There's obviously been a lot shared tonight. So thank you so much for coming, and I'll hand over. Yeah, come.
Okay. Something from the board that I can just report. I just need to make sure that's high, this part down there. That one. The one that's on the, it's like a little, that one. Okay. Yeah. Is it going to be easier if I just do that? Right. I saw how Ian and Gavin both stood up very straight when this thing put on this pink thing. Just the Lord has moved ahead of us so amazingly with this school always. And one of the things that has, as Ian alluded to the fact that the board would discuss something the next week it comes out and we're on the same page. And this is the Lord working. And unity has been so clear with our unity of purpose, our unity as a body, our unity as a board, as teaching staff, as a principal, as families, as children. It is the most amazing environment. I don't have a child at the school. And it's just an incredible pleasure and honor to serve just such an amazing school. So I just thought I'd mention that. So thank you everybody for allowing me to be part of that unity. I'm not going to have a long prayer, but I just wanted to, just quote the Lord's words. See how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity, like the precious oil on the head running down on the beard of Aharon, running down on the collar of his robes, like the dew of Hermon that comes down on the mountains of Zion. For there Adonai commanded the blessing, life forever. I call upon you therefore, I, the prisoner of the Master, to walk worthily of the calling with which you were called, with all humility and meekness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, being eager to guard the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. One body, one Spirit, as you also were called in one expectation of your calling, one Master, one belief, one immersion. One Elohim, the Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all, until we all come to the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah. Blessed be thou, Lord God of Israel, our Father, forever and ever. Thine, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty, for all that is in the heaven and in the earth is thine. Thine is the kingdom, O Lord, and thou art exalted as head above all. Both riches and honor come of thee, and thou reignest over all, and in thine hand is power and might, and in thine hand it is to make great and to give strength unto all. Now therefore, our God, we thank thee and praise thy glorious name. But who am I and what is my people that we should be able to offer so willingly after this sort? For all things come of thee, and of thine own hand we have given thee. Amen.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Blessing us.